Thank you, Jay, for coming out. So we know there may be lots of questions that you may have for a couple of students or further for Mr. Jay Veal. So what we're going to move into now is the time of our student panel. And on that panel, we'll be having some of our fellow students, Mr. Xavier Dawes, Mr. Jonas Shaw, Mr. R.J. Kennedy, and Mr. Jay Veal. So if y'all would come up to the stage and give them a round of applause as they come up.
I'm cool with it. Yeah.
So this space, we have a couple of brief, run-through questions.
Luck in.
We have a couple of brief introductory questions, but mainly the floor is open to everybody here. So we have, of course, fellow peers, and as well as an experienced individual that may be able to answer any questions you might have. And honestly, if the question can't be answered here, if anybody in the crowd has to answer for it, that's honestly great because this is our space, especially as minorities on campus. This is our safe space that we've built. So feel free to ask any question to any scale of maturity, whatever it might be, because I'm pretty sure somebody in the room is equipped to answer it. That's what we're here for. So yes, if you all would one more time just go through, give me your name, maybe your hometown, major, and maybe any future plans you might have.
Hi, I'm Jonas Shaw. I'm from DeSoto, Texas, and I'm a senior religious studies major. And I guess my goal after this is to teach. I want to be a professor, and I don't really want to teach any level lower than that, though. So, yeah.
Gotcha.
Hello, once again, I'm Xavier Dawes. I'm a current junior. I'm majoring in electrical and computer engineering with a minor in data science and mathematics. For future plans, I plan to go into defense work in the DoD, working on robotic engineering, more importantly, embedded systems for computer engineering.
Oh, cool. Okay, dope.
My name is R.J. Kennedy. I'm a senior management major. I'm from Sunnyvale, Texas, right outside of Dallas. In the future, I aspire to be an oil and gas attorney or an intellectual property attorney.
Oh, okay.
Y'all met Brother Veal, but here y'all go.
Yeah, man, the IP attorney is lit. There's a big need for that, especially minorities, right? We don't have enough of them. Of course, y'all know me, Jay Veal. I actually, like I said before, I majored in information systems, started out computer engineering, then I minored in mathematics. I had, I think after the major, about 3.4-ish. Great, has been a great career in tech. Worked at Microsoft, T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T, Baylor Healthcare, in healthcare IT and tech as well. And went into education. Now I'm an educator and an edupreneur as well. Working in the credit and financial literacy space, worked for a lot of banks and also the credit agency before too. So my background is very, very well diverse. So I can answer pretty much a lot of different things that you guys may have. Be open. Let's get some knowledge out. It's all about y'all. It's not about us.
All right, so first question to start us off, what does it mean to leave a legacy?
I'll let y'all start that off.
Okay, I know we kind of talked about this earlier as well, but I kind of agree with most of what y'all said as well. Leaving a legacy is about leaving something behind. And of course you want to leave something behind that's good and fruitful. So yeah, leaving anything behind, hopefully something positive.
I would say a more Baylor spinoff is being a trailblazer. And I know we have a lot of trailblazers in the audience, but just having that initiative to, one, be the first person to do something where you're leaving a path for new people to come in behind you. So you're breaking that barrier, and you're the one going to cause the domino effect for everything and everyone to follow in behind you. So I think that's what it means to be able to have a legacy and just pass it down.
Going off of what Brother Veal was talking about earlier, it's more than just having money on this life here. It's about doing something different and leaving the world better than it was when you got here. So, yeah.
I'll let y'all take that one. That's a good one.
Before we get this question, any question in the crowd? All right, next question. What do you think is the most influential piece of advice you've ever heard?
Oh man, y'all gotta let me start that one. That's a big one. I would say one of them is being in a place where nobody looks like you and not everybody looks like you, even though it's the most, sometimes the most uncomfortable position to be in, it's also one of the greatest powers you have. Sometimes when you're in a room and you're the only one, right? For me, when I was growing up, I was that younger person. I told you I was a freshman in high school at 12, so I was always the younger person, or I was always, sometimes in rooms, the only African-American male or the only person to do this, right? And when you look at that sometimes as a superpower because that's your chance to navigate around and learn more things, right? Or get yourself more experience in rooms where you are the only one, right? And you get to know more people and do more things. So I think sometimes one of the best pieces of advice that I've heard is to get yourself out there when you're the only one, right? You can't be scared and stay in a shell and just think that that's going to be the best thing that ever happened, right? You have to get out there and make the world work for you. Because if you don't make the world work for you, the world's going to take you. And we don't want to have that happen, right? So I think that's one of the pieces of good advice that I've come across.
So I kind of mentioned it earlier when Kendall asked, what does it mean to be a man? But something my mama always tells me is do not be afraid to bring your own seat to the table. And being people of color, a lot of times we don't have seats at the table. So we do have to bring our own because that's part of what being a leader, being a man is.
I would say mine is kind of I guess one you'll hear often, but it's basically you're going to miss all the shots you don't actually take. And I think that goes way past sports. It's going to be if you're going to do a scholarship, if it's going to be for an organization, if it's going to be for a Baylor position, or if it's going to be any undergrad or graduate position. It could be a grad school that you're thinking about applying to, but you don't feel like you're actually going to maybe get in. All those things are going to be the times that you guys have a shot to make. And you're already psyching yourself out and counting yourself out if you don't even apply or even get yourself in that door. It can be one simple conversation with anyone, and that could set you up for life. So all those shots that God will basically bless in front of you. If you do not take that blessing, that is now going to be on you. So,
for me, I guess there was this one time my dad, he was like, if you're the smartest person in the room, find another room. And I know, like, I'm really big on trying to progress myself. And he said that, like, the best way you can do that is surround yourself by people that are, like, better than you, so then you become like them.
Awesome. Any questions from anybody in the audience? Cool.
A quiet group today. Yeah, I got to pull up. No.
What are some traits that you think a gentleman should display? And you can use your own life maybe as a reference, things you put in practice.
as controversy as it may seem, I think gentleness is a big one. Yeah, because a lot of people will see, oh, you have to be a strong man. You have to do things boldly and courageously. And that's going to be true for everything. And there's also a art of a double-edged sword where you also have to do it gently. You're not going to scare away other people. You're not going to talk recklessly to anyone. You should have a presence where it's gentle, calming, but also they see a leader in you. And so I think that's something that's very important in really all gentlemen. Left, right.
Okay, kind of like similar to gentleness, I think peace, or at least being someone who strives toward peace, is a good thing. I've always been told that, like, a raging sea, there's no clarity, but in stillness, there is clarity, basically. So in any way that you can, like, be a peaceful person or find peace or surround yourself in peace, I feel like that's a good quality to have.
Kind of like gentleness, I would say gracefulness, honestly. It's a certain way you do things, how you talk, how you just hold yourself. Sometimes you don't want to always move like a rushing river, but you would rather move like a stream. So pretty much, he said it earlier, it's the tone of which you speak, so that's a good one too.
I'll say one that probably nobody has said yet is courage. Not only to be a leader, but also to be a gentleman. You have to take, like I said earlier, the shots that some people are scared to take. You got to have courage to go out there and take on the world. Because believe it or not, when you get out there and you graduate across that stage and get your bachelor's degree and your master's degree and all that, you're going to encounter a lot of things that are not exactly the best, right? The glass is going to be half full most of the time from your mindset, but sometimes the glass is going to be half empty. But you have to have the courage to attack all of the glass half empty moments that you see out there and make them into glass half full moments. So I say having the courage is one of the best qualities you can also have as a gentleman and a young man in today's world. So.
Awesome. So this last question, we'll do more the students answer and then the grown adult answer. So students, what is one way we can practice being a better gentleman on campus while we're here?
That's like, yeah.
I guess this is more like abstract in thought, but I guess trying to figure out how to, I don't know, kind of bringing back like to what I said earlier, but how do we create peace amongst each other or amongst ourselves, like within ourselves? I know like my biggest thing has been learning out how to have like peace within myself and what that looks like and what that means. And by doing that, that's how I can like bring that outside of myself, but it all starts within myself. And of course, like us as men and us also as like men of color, we don't get a lot of talk about peace inwardly. A lot of the times we're told to like start it outwardly, get control of the situation, get control of the people around us, but we can't really do any of that until we have that inward peace and that inward stillness. So I would say like the best thing that, especially with us being young too, like there's so many things changing about us mentally, physically, emotionally, and all that kind of stuff. Trying to find that inward peace and that inward consistency just goes a long way.
I would say mine is the removal of pride. I think when there's a lot of pride between a group of people, it's hard for them to, collaborate on things, but at the same time, you're going to go farther with a team, always. I get there's going to be a lot of people that did it individually, and they could have all the glory with all that, but at the end of the day, I believe that a team is going to make it easier for you, but also it's going to be more sustainable, and it's going to go farther than someone that's doing everything by themselves, because they're going to get burnt out over time. And so I would say that teamwork and having that pride away is going to, one, make it easier for you to go talk to people. Network is going to allow you to get into doors with charisma instead of being some egotistical person. So I feel like that pride, once it's gone or just died down into a more considerate manner, I think that's going to be a big change and big difference for a lot of individuals.
I like how Jonah said, finding your inward peace. You have to kind of look past what the world defines as a man. You have to really define what you see as a man and the type of man that you strive to be. And then you can work on being that kind of man. And like Xavier said, putting your pride away. Yeah, sometimes it's hard to do that, but that's what you got to do.
Right.
And so your question is a little bit different. But
Okay. Hey, hold up. Your question, nah. All right.
I'm really building on what y'all were saying about just like all the shots you don't take, all that good stuff. It's just there's a quote that I've heard. It's just like you should walk the same way with $1 in your pocket as you would with 1,000. And really, what that does is it helps us all practice just being able to be responsible for things we're being given currently. Because a lot of people have the mindset where it's just like, oh, I'll wait till I get to this point in time. I'll wait till I get this job. I'll wait till I get X, Y, Z more money to start doing this on myself in a better lighter form. And it's just like, why not put that into practice now? Because a lot of people wait till that last minute. And this goes into your question too, but it's just like a lot of people wait till they get an opportunity to actually be different. Like they wait till they have a title in the community to actually change the community. And that's not how things should be. If you really want to make change, it starts today, starts now, and it should be something that's just an emotion or something that you saw on Instagram and got you fired up. It has to be a consistent thing, because as we all know, everything looks pretty at first. When you first get it, whether it be a new job, new position, maybe a child, whatever it might be, it's like, oh, this is fantastic. Get about a month, like, now I'm sick of this.
Right.
Even after being in college, like, man, this is great, I'm glad to be here. It's like, after a while, it's like, man, it's kind of hard. So it's just being able to put those things in practice early on and remain consistent, whether it be as a student, adulthood, seniorhood, to getting to that point and getting up day in and day out, doing what you say you're going to do, as well as inspiring other students. So, into your question, yours is more of how was your transition from student life into manhood?
Man, so my journey was a little bit interesting. So I didn't have the normal college pathway and normal college life, right? How many of y'all know about service academies? Like West Point, Naval Academy, all that, right? So I I went into, after leaving high school at 16 years old, right? I went to the Naval Academy Prep School in Newport, Rhode Island for my first year into life after high school situation, right? So when you go into an academy, right, you kind of grow up a little bit faster than a normal student would. You have to be more into manhood, I guess you could say, a little bit faster. So at that point, I was going to Newport, going through the regiment of getting indoctrinated into, the Navy stuff and all that. And then I had to take 2 maths, 2 sciences, and an English there. Knocked all those out. And then after that, you matriculate into the Naval Academy. And they have that for most of the service academies. But the Naval Academy in Annapolis, going there is different. And so while we're running down the halls, going in there saying, "Go Navy, sir," "Beat Army, sir," and all these other things, right? It's crazy doing these chow calls to upperclassmen and all that. You're learning leadership skills. You're learning how to do multiple different things. They teach you all kind of stuff, right? How to sail, right? They teach you about, how to shoot, how to fight, all that stuff that you would need to know to be a soldier and to be an officer in the military. You grow up a little bit faster and a little bit quicker. Then when I did my master's degree, came out to the University of Texas in Arlington and did that. But I think that my transition was probably a little bit too early, too fast, right? When you're in that environment and you see now what more responsibility that you have, right? Because you don't always have that kind of responsibility when you go to normal university. You want to experience that college life, the student union, and going out there to the events on campus, like the Greek stuff, all of that. Mine was different, right? I had to really focus on my studies because when you go into a school, I think at that time, I don't know how it is now, but at that time, my freshman calculus class was above MIT and my freshman chemistry class was above Caltech. So we can imagine that high level academic stress mentally, and also the military part of that. That's stressful. It causes you to grow up quick. And I think that for me, my transition into manhood at that time was just, now I'm prepared to kind of defeat anything, I felt like. You know what I mean? Like, I went through so much mess. Got broken down, right? When you get broken down to the point of being so low and then they have to build you back up, you feel like you can take anything on. And that's kind of my transition into manhood, was just now being able to do, like, anything that you do to me is not going to hurt, because I done already experienced a lot of hurt already. And now I can conquer. So that's kind of my situation.
Any other questions? It ain't gotta be business related. It could be like, I don't know, extracurricular activities, relationships. Who has a girlfriend?
Anything, yeah. Mine's right there.
What advice would you give all of us, like, either looking for a girlfriend, have a girlfriend, even thinking about taking things further as we consider how to actually treat a woman properly? Any advice on that? Or?
I mean, so you repeat your question. What's your full
really,
question?
Just like, outside of, like, yes, we discuss business.
Right.
When it comes, we've also discussed starting a family,
Right.
manhood, all that stuff. So, like, when it comes to treating a woman properly, what advice would you give with that?
I think a couple of things happen with that, right? Because I'll say one thing that's hard in relationships is communication, right? Being able to communicate well is very, very important when you're talking about being in a relationship, right? But also being able to treat each other right in communication, allowing each other to speak when it's time to speak, allowing each other to have thoughts of their own, right? Without necessarily trying to, I guess you could say, hijack, right? The conversations all the time, or being able to talk about your futures, what you're gonna do, right? What your goals are, what your morals are, right? All those things are important when you go into relationships and trying to make things happen with your significant other. But I think one of the golden rule things happen too, as to, treat people like you want to be treated as well. But at the same point in time, there's one way to go in and be a gentleman and do the whole open the doors and all that. Like, we do all those things, right? If there was, water on the floor, we had an old school thing about putting a towel or whatever it is on the floor so they don't step in the puddle. right, in the jacket, right, when it's cold. But outside of that, those are all silver lining stories, right? Reality sets in when you're in relationships, marriages, and things like that. And like you said, you mentioned something earlier, and you said everything starts off what? Shiny, right? It's like the shiny new car. But then as you take that shiny new car, what do you put on the shiny new car? Mileage, right? Mileage. So when you're in relationships, not that kind of mileage, but you know what I'm saying? But you put mileage on I mean, that happens, but you know, when you put mileage on the car, now you've been able to experience how the car can hold up, right? We do always talk about giving up easy, and for me, I'm that person, right? When you come through some times and you go through a lot of adversity, right, and you go through a lot of things, you know, my tendency is to, if I've been through it enough times, to, you know, to go through and go somewhere else. But sometimes you got to have more staying power. So I'd say treating a woman treating a woman well involves a lot of different things. It involves conversation, communication, practicing being good to each other at times, even when times are crazy. Trying to find a way to somehow still be good to each other in some kind of way. And, you know, just remembering good times too, even when you have a lot of them that are bad. Or vice versa, you know what I mean? Yeah.
I know it was kind of a curveball question, but this is really overstated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm not even in a relationship right now, but I say like from experience, like switching it up, you know what I'm saying, not letting it get boring. I say also, like you said, like thinking about the past times, like when it was, or I guess shiny, like you said, just like reminiscing on those times too, and not letting it get boring.
That's a good one. All right. What else we got? We need to hear from the gentleman in the audience, man. I know we've been up here, we've been up here, so we want to hear from y'all. And we might want to hear from the lady in the room too, right?
Before we
but
go there,
yeah, go ahead.
I have a question real quick. So I know financial literacy is an important thing, right. And usually if you ask, I guess, older individuals, they'll say investing is important. But no one really goes into depth of what type of investing or what investment should be made. Do you have any opinion on that?
Oh yeah, you coming into my zone now. We talking. All right, cool. So I would say this, right? I spoke about this, and I was in Atlanta speaking about business credit and financial literacy a couple of months ago. And it's one of my things that I'm an expert in, right? I'm always learning about stuff in the field. But in my time in working at banks and working for Experian, the credit agency, I got a chance to learn a lot, right? So I say one thing is really understanding building your credit, first of all, right? Is anybody working on their credit right now, right? Building a credit score and all that, right? So you want to take control of understanding what different ways it needs to take to build a great credit report and also a great credit score. I built mine up to about an 830 now, right? So it's a great score, but it takes time, right? You're not going to have these things overnight. It takes building a credit profile correctly. It takes having different kind of accounts on your credit report. It takes understanding algorithms from FICO. It takes all of that. But you got to be invested and interested to want to help yourself do those things to help you when you get a house, when you get a car, right? When you get an apartment and things of that nature. Also, I was just listening to a podcast yesterday about REITs. Y'all know what REITs are? Anybody heard of the word REITs before? REIT, Real Estate Investment Trusts, right? REITs are a package of funds, if you will, almost like if you have in your IRAs and stuff like that, right? It's a package of funds that are in the real estate space. So you can own real estate without owning the property, right? You can own a piece of real estate in a fund and own several pieces of real estate just by buying into a REIT. And so understanding different ways to invest, right? You also can have an IRA that's a managed portfolio by a Morgan Stanley or a Citibank or a Wells Fargo or whatever, right? Having that long term is great. I also am into, the Airbnb space is a good one too. It's tapering down a little bit right now, but if you really you want to have different properties, or you want to have rental properties or fix and flips and things of that nature, are other pieces and ways that you can invest, right? And then you can, of course, go into gold and, Forex and things of that nature. I'm not really into that right now, but I know that those are other ways that you can invest and make money and be able to have staying power. But here's the funny thing. There's this class that I was teaching, and they talked about, there was a Dave, I don't necessarily follow all the things for Dave Ramsey, but there's a situation and a scenario where one brother saved, he was 19 years old, right? He put in $2,000 in for only 7 years, right? So if you think about that, that's a decent chunk of change, not a whole lot. But the first 7 years, he started investing from 19 to 26 at $2,000 a month. After that, he stopped and let compounding interest take control. But his brother didn't do jack for the first 7 years and had zero put in. Then he had to put in $2,000 for the next 40-something years. The brother that put in first for the 7 years got 1.3 million, right? But the other brother had $700,000 less because he waited too long. So my advice to you on that is if you haven't started investing, y'all, invest now. Get into the market. Kendall said earlier, not to wait. How do you act with $1 versus $1 million? You can act now and invest in all kind of different things and put your money in places so you can build the legacy today, right? And you don't have to have $1 million to invest in anything. You don't have to have $1,000. You can have $50 and do things with I heard of Acorns, the app. You can do things with Acorns, right? And start investing. So that would be my subtle advice on that. I have a lot more to say about that, but y'all have my information. I'll give you guys my card before I leave, and I can tell you a lot more.
Any other questions? Or any other answers from the crowd that you maybe heard a question earlier, maybe a point that you want to speak on too, or that this is our space?
Everybody quiet, man. Everybody quiet.
But of course, if you have any questions that you didn't feel comfortable sharing out loud, you can for us to just hang out, chill, had a couple snacks, headshots. Unfortunately, haircut portion we had to cut. All my brothers who came for the haircut, I'm so sorry. In the future, when we book out of it, I'm so sorry. In the future, that will be a very stable part of that. But y'all look fresh anyway. But yes.
There we go.
But yeah, if there's no other questions that you didn't want to ask now during any type of social time, that's also cool. Get connected with each other, not only Mr. Jay, of course, but with each other as well. There's not very many of us on campus, so make sure we stay united, not divided. Because yes, we may have different organizations, different majors, whatever it might be, but we all are family at the end of the day. So,
awesome.
Moving into that, give a round of applause for our panel.